Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Temple Institute Parsha class. My name is Gedalia Meyer, and I'm podcasting from Ma'ale Adumim in Israel. Different people have different reactions to things that happen around them. This is no great revelation. We all know this. In fact, we know about ourselves that we act differently to things over the course of our lives, or even over the course of a single day. It could be the exact same thing happening to us in two different circumstances, and we may react completely differently. We have all experienced this many times and think nothing of it. It's just another example of the unpredictable ways our minds work. It could even be said that we have no way of predicting how we will react in any given situation. We may believe that we have it all down to a science, and we may be correct a good deal of the time, but there will always be those times in which we surprise ourselves. We don't really know why this is the way things are, but we do tend to recognize and to come to terms with the fact that things are indeed this way. A certain amount of training and experience may help eliminate or ease the surprises, but we can never be entirely sure. Sometimes this works in our favor. We may find ourselves in a situation in which we naturally would panic or wimp out or give up or whatever, and lo and behold, we come through like shining angels. This is always wonderful when it happens. It restores our faith in ourselves and gives us a considerable boost in confidence for the future. However, at other times, we find ourselves falling on our faces in a situation which we should have in the bag. We wonder what happened, and more often than not, have no answer. We simply choked when the going got tough, and we have to pick up the pieces and move on. Reactions are a feature of the brain, or so we are told. What else could they be? Granted, some are linked to the hormones or even to some instinctive power that we all have, but the bulk of all this is probably located somewhere in the brain. It might be some combination of memory and will with smatterings of emotional energy and training of whatever neuronic powers we have in our arsenals. Many people are not satisfied with this reductionist and animalistic explanation. They prefer that something as vital and as personal to us as the way we react to things be a function of the non-physical mind. Relegating it all to a bunch of cells makes it seem way too trivial. After all, how could something as nebulous and as spiritual as the will be located in the cells of the brain? Whatever the case, this business about reacting plays a major role in shaping our personalities. To some degree, it really reveals who we are. People judge their potential mates on how they react to situations of pressure and stress. This is where it all comes down to in a crunch. Will we come through or will we strike out? It may not seem fair since all we are really doing is reacting to something that comes from outside, but that's just the way things are. The personality to a large degree is determined, shaped, and revealed by the way we react to the things that happen to us. Being as this is the way things are, it behooves us to know a bit about how we should expect ourselves to react to whatever gets thrown our way. We can simply shoot from the hip and hope for the best, or we can plan and train and observe. We might even look to others to see how they handle things, to gain a little insight into how we should either imitate or do things differently. We always have the option of learning this stuff from a self-help course or from a book or a guide. We might even find that a classic like the Bible has a thing or two to say about all this. This week's Parsha is called Va'era. That word means I appeared. An odd opening for a Parsha, but one with profound implications. It refers to God telling Moshe about previous appearances to the patriarchs way back in patriarchal days. Then it was under a certain image that may have applied better to their situation. Now God tells Moshe, with the upcoming Exodus going into high gear, no other image will do other than that which falls under the mysterious four-letter name. The Exodus was to be one of those unique times in history when God would pull out all of the stops and reveal what things could really be. The way this would play out takes up almost the entire Parsha. This is the Parsha of the plagues. There were a total of 10 plagues, of course, and no less than 7 of them take place in this Parsha. Before any of them, Moshe gives a brief demonstration of what is to come to Pharaoh, attempting to dazzle him with a wondrous thing like his staff turning into a snake. But when Pharaoh's magicians pull off the same thing, Moshe is not particularly surprised to see that it had no impact whatsoever on changing Pharaoh's mind and letting the Israelites go. Of course, God had already told Moshe that Pharaoh's heart would be hardened, and he would steadfastly refuse to buckle under to any threats. In fact, this very stubbornness is displayed repeatedly throughout the Parsha. Each time another of the plagues hits the land, Pharaoh goes through various contortions of will and ends up not swayed in the least by whatever has happened. Sometimes it seems as though this stubbornness is coming from Pharaoh's own inner personality, but at others it appears that some supernatural power has driven him to resist all efforts to change his mind. This also was all in the cards, as Moshe knew from the beginning. The plagues in order were the water turning to blood, frogs invading the land and the homes, lice infecting the bodies, wild beasts entering the settled areas, disease affecting the farm animals, boils afflicting people's skin, intense hail falling all over the land, locusts stripping the crops, darkness keeping everyone chained to their homes, and the killing of the firstborn. After each one until the last, like clockwork, Pharaoh's mind is solidified and nobody budges. Sometimes he seems to be weakening and even begs Moshe to give him a break. Moshe tries to extract promises from Pharaoh when this happens, but it all backfires when the plague ends and things are back to normal. There are times when Pharaoh's advisors or servants tell him that this is crazy, since Egypt will be destroyed. But always the plague ends and we are back to square one. This week's Parsha ends with the conclusion of the seventh plague, hail. This is described quite dramatically. Quote, "This time I will send all of my devastating force against you and your servants and your people, in order that you know that there is none like me in all the earth." God even goes so far as to say that the Egyptians could have been wiped out with the disease very easily, but they were allowed to survive so that God's power could be displayed and that God's name be known throughout the land. The warning for the hail is different from all the previous warnings, which simply demanded that Pharaoh release the Israelites or else some terrible thing would happen. This has all that, but there is an additional element introduced for some reason into the mix. The warning is to gather in all the farm animals and people, for whatever is not gathered in will be killed by the deadly hail. Then a surprise is introduced into the warning. Quote, "Those who fear the word of God from among the servants of Pharaoh will drive their slaves and their cattle into the houses. But those who do not pay attention to the word of God, they would simply abandon their slaves and animals in the field." This type of warning had never really been given before. There was never an option of fearing God, alleviating the damage from the plague. Why it should be this time is left a bit of a mystery. When the plague actually takes place, it is a wild show of natural and apparently supernatural forces. There is hail and fire within the hail and all kinds of weird sounds, a kaleidoscope of terror, the likes of which had never been seen before in Egypt. The hail struck the entire land, and any person or animal left out in the fields was subject to its power. Only in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites lived, was there no hail. Pharaoh buckled under this time. He confessed that he was wrong and God was right. He even said that he and his people were evil. He begged Moshe to pray to God to get rid of the hail and everything else, and he would finally send the Israelites off. When Moshe carries through with this, the hail ends, and sure enough, once again, Pharaoh experiences a change of heart and refuses to make good on his promise. Why was this unique warning given with an option of fearing God and not suffering the consequences of the plague? Why was it only this time that this option was presented? Perhaps there was something different about this plague, something that prompted this possibility. It is true that it was described as, quote, "all of my devastating power," but that alone doesn't really answer the question. Perhaps the answer is contained in that line about the Egyptians realizing that there is no power like God in all the earth. Even though a simple disease could have wiped them out, they were allowed to survive, to witness all this, and to be able to speak of it in the future. But what is needed for that is someone to be around in the future who witnessed it all. It would have to be someone who was willing to recognize that what they saw was truly the power of God and not write it all off as some fluke of nature or whatever. This was all a matter of how different people would react to the utterly bizarre situation that was happening right before their eyes. Some would see the deadly hail falling, killing everything in its path, and shrug their shoulders and go have a drink. They would let their slaves and animals die and think nothing of it. These people, for whatever reason, reacted as one might expect from someone who has a closed mind and a closed heart. They cannot find it within themselves to learn from experience and are stuck in whatever rut they were in. But those others who finally found the wherewithal to realize that this was indeed the hand of God, understood that this was something unique, and the only thing they could do about it was get out of the way. This was an amazing thing, and it shows the amazing power of the human will. No matter how trained we may be to think and react in a certain way, we always have the power to think and react differently. These people would be the ones who would tell the true story when the time came. It is not just anyone who can learn from their mistakes and become a different person. It takes some out-of-the-box thinking and perhaps a bit of fear of God. Shabbat Shalom.